You have the life you were told to want, and you feel nothing. Look at it from the outside. The job people congratulate you for, the relationship that photographs well, the home, the salary, the milestones arriving right on schedule, each one checked off exactly as promised. By every measure the world handed you, you have arrived, and yet you stand in the middle of it, on an ordinary evening, and something in you is quietly, unmistakably hollow. Not grief, not the sharp, clean pain of something being wrong, just a flatness, a quiet, muffled distance, as if you were somehow watching your own good life through glass and cannot feel the warmth of it on your skin. You've tried to name it. Ungrateful, you thought. Spoiled, maybe. You have what so many people are still fighting for, and here you are, unmoved by it, and the shame of that keeps you silent. So you say nothing. You smile in the right places. And late at night, the question surfaces anyway, the one you can't shake. If this is everything I wanted, why do I feel so empty? I'm the voice of shadow and self. I read the psychology so you don't have to, and I tell you the parts about yourself most people would rather not say out loud. So here's the first one. That emptiness is not a defect in you. It is not ingratitude, and it is not depression to be medicated away. It is a signal. Something inside you is trying to speak, and the emptiness is the only language it has left. Let me explain. Carl Jung drew a line between two things that live inside every one of us. The first, he called the persona. The persona is the self you built to be accepted, the polished face you learned to wear, the one that won approval, earned the grades, pleased the room, became exactly what the people around you needed you to be. It is not a lie, exactly. It is a costume that fits so well you forgot you were wearing it. The second thing Jung called the self, with a capital S, not your image, your center, the deep, original core of who you actually are, with its own strange desires, its own quiet compasser, its own reasons for being here that no one else could have assigned to you. And here is the wound. You can spend 30 years building a magnificent persona and win every prize it was designed to win, and still the self, your own true center, receives none of it. The applause lands on the mask. The mask cannot feel. And you, the one underneath, go hungry at your own celebration. That gap between the life the persona built and the life the self actually wanted, that distance, has a feeling. And the feeling is emptiness. So look closely at how the mask was made, because you did not choose it the way you think you did. Somewhere very early, you learned what earned love and what lost it. You saw which version of you made a parent's face soften, which grades were met with pride, which choices were quietly approved, and which were met with a silence that felt like cold. And being a child, you did the wisest thing a child can do. You became the version they wanted. You outsourced the question of what to want to the people whose love you needed to survive. That is the quiet tragedy underneath a good life that feels like nothing. You never actually asked yourself what moved you. You asked what would be approved of. And so you climbed a ladder, rung by rung, each one real, each one earned, without ever noticing that the ladder was leaning against someone else's wall. You succeeded perfectly at a life that was never yours to begin with. Jung understood that when you live too long as the persona, something inside goes numb. The psychologists have a word for it, anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure, the color draining out of things that should delight you. But underneath the clinical word is something simpler and stranger. You cannot feel joy in a life you did not choose, because joy is the self's response to its own true desire. And you have spent so long silencing your desire, overruling it, calling it impractical that you can no longer hear what it wants. The numbness is not the absence of feeling. It is the sound of a self that stopped being consulted. This is what people mean without knowing it when they speak of golden handcuffs. The life is beautiful. The salary is real. The comfort is genuine. And that is exactly what makes it a cage. Because every good thing you'd have to give up to go looking for your own life becomes a reason to stay in the one that isn't. Who walks away from this, you tell yourself? Who complains about a gift? And so the handcuffs hold, not because they hurt, but because they gleam. But notice what the emptiness is actually doing. It refuses to lift. You've thrown everything at it. More success, more comfort, more of exactly what was supposed to work, and it will not go quiet. That stubbornness is not a symptom. It is integrity. The emptiness is the one part of you that will not pretend anymore. It is the soul's quiet, immovable refusal to keep performing a life it was never asked whether it wanted. And as long as you treat it as an enemy to be defeated, you will miss the truth that it is the most honest thing left in you, and it is trying in the only way it can to call you home. So let me say the thing most people never say out loud. The emptiness is not the problem to be solved. The emptiness is the invitation. It is not there to punish you for having a good life. It is there to tell you that a good life and your life are not always the same thing, and that the second one is still waiting to be lived. Now here's the turn, the part that actually sets you free. Jung called the way out individuation, the slow work of becoming who you actually are, rather than who you were assembled to be. And it does not begin with burning your life down. It does not require quitting the job tomorrow or blowing up everything you built. It begins with something much quieter. It begins with listening to the very desire you spent your whole life overruling. So start there, gently, not with the question the persona asks, which is always what will impress them. Ask instead the question the self has been waiting to be asked. What quietly moves me? Notice the things you're drawn to when no one is watching, and there is nothing to win. The subject you keep reading about with no use for it. The work you do even unpaid, unseen. The small pull toward a place, a craft, a kind of life that makes no sense on paper and yet will not let you go. That pull is not a distraction from your real life. That pull is your real life, calling from underneath the one you built to please everyone else. Because meaning was never something you could achieve. That is the whole misunderstanding. You went looking for it outward, in prizes and approval, and the next rung, and it was never out there to be won. Meaning is built inward. It comes from living in agreement with your own center, from choosing what is true for you over what is admired, even when the truth is smaller and stranger and harder to explain. A modest life that is actually yours will feed you in a way that a magnificent life that isn't never can. So the next time the emptiness rises in the middle of your good life, don't reach for gratitude to shame it away, and don't reach for more of what already failed to fill it. Reach for honesty. Sit with the hollow feeling and ask it gently, what have I not been letting myself want? Because the goal was never to feel nothing in a life that looks like everything. The goal is to slowly, honestly become whole, to let the mask soften and the true face come forward, and to finally live a life that, from the inside, feels like yours. This is shadow and self. If something in this found you, stay a while. There's more.